For today's project, I'm going to head down to my local Walmart and grab my favorite shower curtain. I need a cool design. Then I'm also going to head on over to the Dollar Tree and grab some of these mats that they have. I'm going to need 4 of these for this project. I'm going to place them upside down, put them in a square so they're all together. Make sure the seams fit up nice and neat. Once I get those together, the next step was I grab some duct tape and I put that down to hold those seams together. Now, if I needed to add a few more, I could have, but I wanted to make sure I got it from front to back and from side to side. That'll make it nice and strong right there. Once I get that cut off and everything, I want to make sure that I also smooth it out so I got a smooth surface. Next, I'm going to take that shower curtain and lay it across my table, but I want to make sure that I had the design facing up. That way I know exactly where to lay it out. Once I do that, I'm going to take it out and go ahead and cut around the edges. I want to leave about 3 to 4 inches of overlap on each side. These shower curtains cut real easy. Just take a pair of nice sharp scissors and do it. Next is going to take some spray adhesive, and I'm going to spray this all along the back of these mats, even getting on the duct tape that I did. I want to make sure I get the edges and all around the inside and every square inch that I can. I want to work a little fast, make sure I get it on there, and then I'm going to lay the shower curtain. But I'm not going to lay the whole thing at one time. Just do half of it and then smooth it out and get the wrinkles out. Then I'm going to push over the other half using my hand, just get out all the wrinkles that I can. Now there's some that are still there, and that's because it was folded up in the package. What I'm going to do is take an iron and place it on there and get all the wrinkles out. Now I'm going to flip it back over, grab my hot glue gun, and go very easy, just a few inches at a time, and lay over the edges of the shower curtain onto the back of the mat. Now it's a little warm, so you want to be careful, just light touches so you don't burn yourself. Once I get that all laid out, I'm going to make sure it's nice and smooth, get all the edges on all 4 sides done, and then I'm going to start folding the corners. So I fold one side first like this, put out a little hot glue, and then I'm going to fold the next edge over. I'm going to hold that down for about 15 to 20 seconds until it dries up and it holds it. Now here's a little secret. I'm going to put some hot glue on the back of this mat and just lay it there. What this does is this grips as I'm doing it. Next, what's going to happen is I'm going to get some water-based polyurethane and I'm going to spray this mat. That's going to help waterproof it. Once I get this on and it's ready to dry, I can put this in place, and it goes great in my bathroom. It actually, with this beach scene, it matches the decor that I already have hanging up in my bathroom. Is that I can also take it outside because it's going to go great with my Adirondack chairs. I think it turned out great and it looks really amazing. I hope this inspired you to build your own outdoor shower curtain bath mat.
For this project, you're going to start with a pillow insert. Next step is you're going to get a shower curtain, and you can use this you can use an old shower curtain that maybe you have around the house, or you can buy one really inexpensive. I found this one on Amazon for less than $10. My pillow inserts are 14 inches by 14 inches, so I actually cut down my shower curtain to be a little bit. And so what you're gonna do is you're going to take whatever measurement for the pillow insert you get and you're gonna add an inch. So I'm gonna make mine 15 inches. Now the back side we're gonna make a little bit different because we're gonna create a little pocket so that we can slip the pillow into it. All right, so for the back side of the pillow, we're gonna create a pocket. So I'm gonna take my fabric and I'm gonna fold it in half. So once I folded it in half, one side of this fold is going to be the same dimensions as the front side. So it's gonna be 15 inches. So we're just gonna go ahead and mark that. The other side is actually going to be half of the dimensions of the pillow, which is 14 inches, divided by 2, which is 7, plus 4 inches. So it's going to be 11 inches total. So I'm going to start by cutting up the 11-inch side from my 15-inch mark. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to cut this fold in half so that we have 2 pieces that are the same size. So before I actually cut the fold, I'm going to take some pins just to secure the fabric together so that it doesn't shift when I cut it. Perfect. All right, so now we have 2 pieces that are the same size that we're going to use to create our back. So now I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to fold it about 1/2 inch. We're trying to create a really nice clean line for our pocket. So I'm going to do about 1/2 inch. And I'm probably gonna pin this a little bit just because this fabric isn't as easy to work with. and I want to keep it in the same spot as I work my way over with my iron. Okay, so that's like a little more manageable. So I'm gonna take this corner, not burn myself, be careful. You're just looking to create like a really clean edge. We're gonna do the exact same thing on the other piece of the back panel. All right, so once we've ironed, we're actually going to do a little straight stitch across the back with, I'm gonna hand sew this, so stay tuned for that. Before we get to this step, I wanted to preface it with you could, if depending on the fabric that you're using, use glue for this project instead of sewing. If you want to make this a no-sew project, you can use glue instead. So that side is finished. We're going to move on to the next one. Here is my front piece. I'm going to be laying it down outside in because we're going to be sewing or gluing, depending on what fabric you have. You want the presentation sides to be facing each other inwards. I'm laying my first piece of my back down, and then the other part where we stitched, they're going to basically overlap each other. And then we're going to make sure that all the corners match, and then I'm going to take pins and I'm going to go around the perimeter of the pillow, and I'm going to pin it all so it stays in place so we can straight stitch or glue around it. I just want the fabric to stay in place. I'm just gonna wrap this up right here because it's right next to where I started. And like I did on the straight stitch across, I'm going to insert my needle through, and I'm gonna take the thread that is attached, wrap it around a couple times, hold at the base, and pull through to help that knot stay right where I want it to be. And one thing that we're going to do before we actually flip this right side out, we're going to clip the corners of the pillow. This will just help give it a little bit of space. When you are trying to insert the pillow, it'll actually pop out the edge. All right, so now that we've clipped all of that, we're going to take our pillow and flip it right side out. All right, so here is the pillow. Okay, so it's time to show the buttons. So my first button's gonna go here. I'm going to start from the inside. So I'm gonna make sure I hold it in place. And I have brown thread to go with my brown buttons. I'm just going to secure it in place. All right, so for the last piece of this, to keep this button in place, I'm going to go up through but behind the button with my needle and thread. So it's just underneath, and I'm gonna wrap around the back. And then I'm gonna go back in and finish my, my thread on the inside of the pillow cover. Now I'm going to use ribbon, and I'm going to create a little loop to adhere to the underside of the back of this panel. Now I've already pre-measured the perfect size ribbon that I want to use, and so I'm just going to create a loop. We're going to flip this to the underside. I'm actually going to trim this a little bit more. I'm going to attach it to this double side seam that we created. Okay, so now these two loops have been secured, so have the buttons. I'm going to go ahead and put my pillow insert back in the pillowcase. And then I'm going to take my loop of my ribbon, wrap it around the buttons, and now you don't have to worry about anything becoming unsecure. And you have a new waterproof pillow to put outside. Well, there you have it. My shower curtain pillows turned out really great. They were very easy to make, and I think they look amazing on my outdoor patio furniture. Thank you so much for watching Hometalk, and I will see you next time. Bye!
So you're going to need 2 boxes. Now we're going to cut off all of the extra little cardboard pieces, take a pair of jeans that are washed, and lay them out. We're going to cut off both of the legs. After that is cut, we're going to go and measure the fabric that's going inside. After those are cut out, let's put some glue in the inner portion. You can use either hot glue or some E6000 glue, and after you have each section glued down, go and cut the corners and then secure it at the sides. So I'm measuring this up now, and I'm seeing how much material this is going to go and cover. But at the edge here, I'm going and gluing it down. Now I'm putting some glue onto the box. Let's go and take this and put it down. Go and take off any extra material, but do leave a small amount on the bottom so you can glue this to the bottom. And now let's go and finish off the rest of the box. And while that dries, we're going to go and cut off some of these little tiny pieces for the belt loop, glue these onto the sides. Now we can go and write on the box. Let's go and fill this toys box with some cat toys. And it fits perfectly underneath my cat's scratching post. For my other box, I'm going to use it to go and organize my bathroom closet.
Take an X-Acto knife and remove the lid flaps. Take hemp rope and a hot glue gun to begin wrapping the rope around the box. Take twine and begin gluing it to the perimeter of the bottom of the box. Take balsa wood oval or circle shapes and paint them with black paint. Print words to be displayed on the side of the box. Cut them out and use pencil to cover the back of the paper. Then trace the font on the balsa wood. Use a chalkboard pen or a white paint pen to cover the pencil traced font. Use a hot glue gun to attach the labels to the side of the box. There you have it, an inexpensive way to create your own pantry storage for your home for less than $10.
My wife has always been wanting some more storage space in the laundry room. I need some 1x8s and 1x3s. Then I need to measure in between the washer and dryer to get the width. And then I need to get the height. So let's start measuring and cutting boards. Once we get the front and the back cut, these are the longer boards, we're going to put the bottom on. I like to use my little brad nailer. We're going to put the middle shelf on. Now, every shelf is going to need a little barrier to keep everything in. We're going to put those on the inside. Once I put that first side piece in on the bottom shelf, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to put the next one on. Once we get that on the bottom, we're going to put some wheels. Now for the top. That's the last board we got. We're going to put a hinge on the back. Once we get that hinge on, look at that. I've got a little hiding shelf right there. So run some 80 grit, then up to 220, run it up and down the sides and make it look nice. And then you can either paint or put your favorite stain on.
We're going to quickly sweep the floor, and we're going to sand the floor with some 220 sandpaper. We're going to clean the floor with TSP, trisodium phosphate. Okay, I've got my Wise Owl stain eliminating primer. I'm using a dense foam roller so I give a real smooth finish. Okay, we let our primer dry overnight. We're ready for our base coats. We're going to be applying 2 coats of Wise Owl 1 Hour Enamel Antique Villa, and now I'm going to mask off the baseboards. I'm going to use a little spray adhesive on this stencil. Center your stencil on the tile. Because my tile floor has a slight texture to it, I'm choosing to use a brush. It's going to give me a tighter edge than using a roller. It's time to pull the masking tape, do a few touch-ups, and apply 3 coats of top coat to protect this beautiful floor. I'll be using Wise Owl 1 Hour Enamel Clear Satin as my top coat.
Grab some cheap plastic bins from your local Dollar Tree. Take your bins outside and spray paint them thoroughly. I used a nice metallic copper color for them. Now grab some thick rope, string, or twine to place on the bottom of the bins. Using hot glue, attach the rope to the bottom of the bin for a more elevated look.
I've got a laundry problem. Too much to do and nowhere to store it. So I'm going to head down to my hardware store and I'm going to grab some good lumber. We're going to mark them, then I'm going to cut them. We're going to set 2 of these legs aside, take these 2 legs, separate them, and then we're going to start building a box. As you can see, I'm going to use glue, put the board on top, and I'm just going to use little brad nails to hold it in place. And then once we get the 2 sides built, we're going to measure the basket, build the top and the bottom, again using the 1x3s. As you can see, the box is starting to form. Now it's time to build the top. Again, using 1x3s on the top, I'm going to do 5 of these. Now it's time to build the racks and the sliders that the baskets will go on. I'm going to put some glue down again along the sides. We'll put this in place again with glue and using the brad nails to hold it in place. See that little bevel I put on the side? That's so it doesn't catch the basket. This is where we can put little letterings or signs on. Using the brad nail, hold it in place. It's time to sand. I've got a secret. We're not going to use stain on this. I'm going to use something different, but don't be intimidated. We're going to use a torch. That's right. We're going to burn this wood and give it a special look.
Run on over to the Dollar Tree and grab one of these blue baskets. What can you do if you don't have enough cabinet space? Grabbed a ruler and I'm marking where exactly I want each of these bins to go on my wall. Now for stability, you can choose exactly how you'd like to adhere these baskets to your wall, adding 2 screws to each basket or possibly 4. Now that all the baskets are up, it's time to load them up. While I was at the dollar store, I grabbed one of these over the cabinet door hangers and they hook nicely into the holes onto the baskets. For this hack, you're going to need some hooks. I'm going to grab some bins that I found at the dollar store and I'm going to hook them onto the hook. So now I can separate out my darks from my whites. I'm going to take an over the door hanging rack and I'm going to hook it over the top of my door. This is perfect for ironing boards. I'm going to grab my iron and I'm also going to hook it onto the over the door hanging rack. And it doesn't take any cabinet or counter space or shelf space.
I'm not a fan of doing laundry, and when it comes to folding clean clothing, there's not enough room in my laundry room. I began by cutting 1 by 12 inch pine to make the storage cabinet. I made the outside box first. I used a Craig jig to make pocket holes to join my pieces together. This, along with wood glue, would keep everything in place. I measured for my shelves, marking and cutting them to fit, and screwed them in place. Now that the cabinet was made, it was time to make the table. I used 1/2 inch MDF, which I measured and cut to size. I attached a piece of 1 by 2 to the bottom of the MDF with glue and brads. I also made the legs for the table out of 1x2s. I painted the entire cabinet gray using paint from another project. For the back of the table, I used chalkboard paint and applied 2 coats. When it was dry, I flipped the table over and applied wallpaper to the other side. This would be my tabletop. To attach the table to the cabinet, I used a piano hinge. I screwed it to the wallpaper side of the tabletop and the bottom front of the cabinet. I used another hinge and attached it to the top of the blackboard side and to the top of the legs. For the back of the cabinet, I attached a 1/4-inch piece of plywood. The cabinet was very heavy, so I used a French cleat as my hanger. There are 2 pieces, and one screws into the back of the cabinet, and then one screwed into the wall. Where I wanted to place the cabinet, there were no studs available, so I drilled holes and put in plastic anchors. To keep the table attached to the cabinet, I fastened a heavy-duty magnet to the front.
I've got an old folding table that needs to be resurfaced. First thing we got to do is get it cleaned up. Next, we need some liquid wood. We're just going to go ahead and start painting away. We're going to go ahead and put that second coat on. You're going to take that graining tool and go back and forth. It's time to stain. Take a lint-free cloth and you're going to take it right off. We're going to use a water-based polyurethane, and it looks like a brand new faux wood table.
Let's make a tabletop. Use a miter saw to cut the 1x3-inch pine boards. You'll use these boards around the edge. Make sure you drill pilot holes and then use a countersink bit. Glue the 1x12-inch boards together using wood glue, then clamp them until they're dry. Now attach the 1x3s to the edge using wood screws and wood glue. Now for the fun, stain your table a color that you love. Wipe off the excess stain with a soft cloth and apply a coat of wax. Wait, that's the same ugly table? No way!
Head down to the local hardware store and choose some of the inexpensive whiteboards. I brought the table outside and set it up. All I had to do was take the 1x6s and lay them out. First thing I want to do is measure the board for some of my cross beams. I'm going to cut those a little bit short using my miter saw, and then I'm going to mark out where I'm going to place the boards because I need to lay some good wood glue down. Then I'm going to take my cross board and use finish nails to put it in, and it's time to put the side pieces on. I'm going to use some 1x3s with mitered joints. We're going to put the glue on there and use the nails to put it in place. I'm going to go ahead and use some wood putty, sanded the whole table down, and it was time for staining. And I go ahead and do the whole table. Clear polyurethane. Go ahead and put the new wood table down on top, and it turned out beautiful.
The first step to any good refinishing project is sanding. Go ahead and take a microfiber cloth and wipe down the surface. I went ahead and gave it a coat of primer. And I'm going to use this to paint the base of the table, the side of the table, and also the chairs. Now I'm going to start with my darkest color. Once that first layer was dry, I went ahead and moved on to my second paint choice. I also mixed in just a little bit of whitening. This is going to help me give a more textured look, but I also went back over this layer with a clean, dry rag. I mixed all three of these together. I'm going to go ahead and apply this last layer. I went ahead and sanded the chairs. Each chair also got a coat of primer and added a layer of whitening to each of the chairs. And I used these seat covers that I purchased off of Amazon. Take some of this frog tape, then I applied my DIY fabric paint, seal the tabletop using Famo Wood glaze coat. And that's it, y'all. I'm so happy with how these turned out.
Let's head down to our local hardware store and grab a pre-made round tabletop and set a planter on top. We need to draw a circle around the edge. Next, we're going to grab some Jenga pieces. We got to measure them out. We're going to glue these down all over about 4 to 5 inches around. We're going to put this wood stain on going with the grain of the wood. Just wipe it with the grain of the wood. Now it's some clear polyurethane, but this is going to seal the wood. It's just mix the two parts of the epoxy together. We also need some color. Just lay that clear stuff right out and mix it all down with the stir stick. Next, it's time for turquoise. We're going to make sure that we rub it all over the board. Next, we're going to take some white. Next, grab your hair dryer and we're going to spread out that white epoxy and just spread it all over. We want a second coat on top of the base, mixing it as you go and start spreading it out. And you can use it for storage for blankets in the living room. Go ahead and put your tabletop on. So shiny and so clean.
got a box of them stored somewhere. Using a free online template or drawing freehand, draw the shape of 2 butterflies of the exact same shape and size onto a piece of cardboard. Also, draw and cut a strip of cardboard that is about 1 inch in width and is long enough to completely wrap around your butterfly. Bend and curve the strip as needed and tape on the inside edge of the butterfly. Take the second butterfly cutout and tape it to the top of the cardboard strip. Once that edge is taped, tape the outer edge of the other side as well. Combine a 1-to-1 mixture of flour and water, and then add additional water to get the glue consistency that you want. Cut or tear strips of newspaper and begin to paper mache the outside of the butterfly box. Once dry, spray paint the paper mache butterfly with a metallic silver paint and let that dry. Grab your protective eyeglasses, safety first, and a pair of scissors. Begin to cut the CDs into small squares. Because they soaked in the warm water, cutting them will be slightly easier. Using a hot glue gun, begin to glue the square tiles to the butterfly. Once you have the front and back done, glue tiles to the sides. You can now set your new butterfly on a shelf or table, or hang it from a ceiling or from a tree in your yard.
And we're gonna start by just putting a little hot glue on the inside, securing the yarn right on the inside there, and then just wrapping the yarn around the noodle. You can use a little bit of hot glue along the way to tack it in place. So we end this the same way we started, with just a little bit of hot glue right here. I've got 2 stacks of big, heavy books. This is gonna help us shape this pool noodle. Then we're gonna take the next noodle, which isn't wrapped in yarn yet, and place it inside this first one. So I'm just gonna grab a Sharpie and I'm just gonna draw a line where I need to cut off the next color. Cut off these ends and then go ahead and wrap the yellow, green, and blue in yarn. Then we're gonna take the end of the zip tie. We're just gonna go from the inside and poke it through like this. So we're gonna join these 2 ends together and these 2 ends together. So I've got this one all in place. Now I'm gonna add the other noodles. We're going to use these bamboo skewers. I'm just gonna slide the skewer pointy side in all the way through. We want it to go through the purple, but not come out the end. So we've got everything on. Now the zip ties here, I'm just gonna pull them a little bit tighter to bring this bottom in a bit closer. And then I'm gonna add one more on the very bottom of each one of these. Then we're gonna take a clippers or a wire cutter and just snip these off. Got a couple pieces of cardboard here. We're just gonna sketch out some cloud shapes. And then we can cut this out using a craft knife. And I'm going to paint them with a metallic white paint. And we're just going to hot glue right under here to the yarn and the noodles underneath. This yarn rainbow makes a beautiful statement in my craft room. I love the color that it adds.
work table in my office has a lot of space underneath for storage, but it is really ugly to look at. So I'm measuring the front of the desk, height and width. I'm laying out the foam board and I'm going to cut it down. I'm using clear packing tape on both sides of the seams for a really strong hold. Now I want to cover the front of this large piece with marble shelf liner. I'm leaving a bit of an overlap. Slowly pull the backing off the sticky shelf liner. I want to use some Velcro. Now I have a clean looking desk.
Grab some decorative trim. Start with your first cut, and then you're going to measure the length of the TV. Give it another 45-degree cut. Once you get all 4 pieces cut, you gotta have glue. Put it right up next to it. Just mark out the holes. Once you pre-drill, the screws go in without a drill. We gotta build a box. That way we can cover the sides of the TV. We're gonna lay the frame on top. Just a few brad nails to hold it together. Now it's time for some gold paint, a little bit of Velcro on the TV. It just looks amazing. I've got an area on the side of my house that is just ugly with an old hose. Take the handles and put some tape over them. And you're just going to poke through where the screws go in the handles. Peel the tape off and you can then transport the tape onto the side of the planter. This is where you're going to drill the holes. Drill your holes. And then you can pop the screws through. Use your hand to tighten them first. Once we got these holes drilled, turn it back over and we're going to use some succulent potting soil. Transplant your succulents where we're going to hide the hose. We need to drill a hole about halfway up. Put some wood in there. That's going to hold this lid up. Get that garden hose through. Pull it all the way through and look at that. Go ahead and put your succulent tray right on top.
Start with 3 cutting boards. So I'm just going to give them a coat of milk paint. Now that the paint is dry, I'm going to take my sandpaper and I just want to rough up the edge a little bit. I'm going to use some hemp oil and I'm just going to rub this all over. So I'm going to turn them over here. Once I have my hinges in place, it's time to add some screws to hold them and cover up this cluttered corner of my kitchen counter.
You're going to need 2 white cutting boards. Place E6000 on the sides. Place your white cutting boards vertically on either side. Add E6000 glue to 3 sides. Place these 2 cutting boards and then place a dowel through the handles. Your box is ready.
Is decide where we're going to put our bowls. Mark it up here. You can go ahead and make your marks. And we're just going to draw our circle. Put a hole close to the edge. I will get this spray painted. What we're going to be using is this really cool reusable stencil. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel like we have our answer.
I grabbed 3 empty soda containers from my home. I wanted to make this space much more organized, measured the dimensions inside. Once I got the table set up, I started using the tension rods to store my ribbon. I got to work on my soda boxes, wrapped the boxes with fabric, applied hot glue with the glue gun, and then at the top, I just tucked it in. I thought these planters looked like a honeycomb. It was time to install the row of hooks that I'd bought. I hung the wire mesh cups, filling my honeycomb with supplies that I wanted to have easily on hand. And here it is. Everything's organized and I have it easily accessible.
I went to Lowe's and picked up this large terracotta looking pot. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a light sand. I'm going to go ahead and paint vertical stripes on this. I am just gonna use some leftover paint that I had from another project. Get the sides of this. I'm just gonna go around and dot the edges of my pot. Dry, we can go ahead and remove the tape. Painting the raw wood stripes white. I am just going to be using this Rust-Oleum matte clear coat. This project came out so good. I cannot wait to get out here and start gardening.
Grab a pack of mesh laundry bags, plastic shower curtain rings, open up a shower ring, and push the plastic knob through a hole towards the top. Now for the bottom of the bag. You will need 3 metal rings, and attach 1 more bag at the bottom. Clip the plastic rings to a bar in your closet. You can really put anything into these bags.
So what I've got here is a pool noodle. I'm gonna take some of the items, mark where this spot is, make a slit, flip the noodle over, picture holder strips, peeling the backing off. Press it on the wall. Here they are, all hung up.
Grab a metal cooling rack. You will need 2 screws. Go into your closet and get your rack in a straight line. Mark the corners of the rack. Screw your first screw in. Put your rack onto the screws. Fill your rack with sunglasses.
To start this project, I'm taking a broomstick. I'm taking the handle end off of the broom. I'm using my cotton rope and hot glue gun to tightly wrap around the rope on the entire broomstick. Next, I'm taking 2 crystal knobs for each end of my broomstick. I'm using my ribbon to weave in and out of the baskets. I am securing the ribbon with hot glue. Next, I'm using some clear zip ties to secure the baskets to the broomstick. I'm using a laser level to place and pressed in to secure them. I'm using these baskets for some of my yarn storage, and it makes for an excellent budget-friendly organization project.
To start this project, you're going to need some trash cans.
Get this tag off of your trash can. For these trash cans, I have put on chalkboard stickers. I can add everybody's name, can measure the width and the height, pick out the right command hook and place the hook onto it. It's gonna fit nice and snug. I have our gloves and our hat stuck together for each family member, and then we place those into the bucket. So here's a look at them all hung up.
You will need 4 plastic shower rings. Take one ring and loop it into one other. Clip a ring to the handle of your basket. Now bring this basket over to your closet. Clip the plastic ring onto a bar in your closet. My husband has a lot of hats, and this is a perfect storage basket for all of them. Go to your local dollar store and grab a few glass candle holders. Take off any stickers that are on these jars, and go and wash the jars. Take your lids outside and spray paint them. Let these dry and move on to the glass candle holders. Mix up some 5-minute epoxy. Dip your knob into it and center it onto the painted lid. Move on to the candle holders. Dip it and center it on the jar. You can really put anything into these that you want to, some Q-tips, smaller hair ties, and also cotton rounds. These apothecary jars will help you organize your bathroom items and look really cool.
I made a trip to my local dollar store, taking a terracotta pot. I draw a very random shape. Taking the clear glue, I pour some onto the side of the pot, picking up some of the blue gravel and pat it down. I then put some of the silver glitter glue around the edge, and here is my geode terracotta pot.
To begin, I started with an ordinary ceramic pot, and then you're going to wrap your entire pot. You'll need some craft type paper. You just rip it up in pieces. You'll pull out your Mod Podge. You'll cover everything except for the top. You're kind of layering and overlapping your pieces. Grab a fabric of your choice. I just chose a natural muslin type. This is just a traditional braid. Wrapping this around until you come back around to the other side. And you're going to start the second layer. Snip that off, pull back that saran wrap on the top, and get your pot to pop out. And now I have this braided, beautiful fabric pot.
I took this terracotta pot and then I placed a couple of tiles inside the bag. I took a hammer and I pounded onto the tiles and I began to glue them onto the pot. So once I did around the circumference of the pot, the base, I filled any little holes with smaller tile pieces. And then I came in with this pre-mixed grout. I scraped it onto the entire pot and I'm going to wipe off the grout, and then this is my finished product here.
little bit of water, and then add just a small amount of white paint. Stir that up, and I'm gonna dip this rag and just start rubbing it on the pot. So I have a small plastic disposable pot here, and I've got some stones and fill up that plastic pot in the middle. Then to top it off, I'm just gonna add a little bit of gravel with soil. I'm just taking a selection of nice faux flowers. I'm gonna add a tall battery-powered votive. Whitewash a pot and create a spring planter.
I am going to take this plain terracotta pot. I'm going to make sure that I have my stencil nice and flat, dry decks, spackling putty, and I'm just going to smooth it out across my stencil. Then I'm going to remove the stencil while the putty is still dry. Then I have this other nice stencil that I'm just going to do along the top. Then I'm going to come in with this silk paint and I'm going to paint it over top of my entire pot. I'm going to take this patio outdoor paint, add in just a little bit of ground coffee, mix that in, dry brush it over the raised areas of the pot. I'm going to blend in that black a little bit. And this is my finished pot here.
And grab some planters right off the shelf, some primer, and some textured finish. We're gonna go with this square base. So we're gonna put some glue here right around the edges. And I'm just gonna wipe it around the edge just like this. Put it right on top. This waterproof container right here, flip it over. I can just take the glue now and just put it all inside here. Go ahead and take our pot, put it right inside there. We're gonna go ahead and put some glue right on top. Wanna make sure that we get it just centered perfectly. And I wanna put on a good coat of primer. I went with an off-white cream color, get every square inch. Look at how good that looks right at your front door.